Lecture 2, Wars and Revolution, Part 3. Restoration is used to describe both the actual event by which the monarchy was restored and the period of several years afterwards in which a new political settlement was established. It is very often used to cover the whole reign of Charles II and the brief reign of his younger brother James II. In certain contexts, it may be used to cover the whole period of later Stuart monarchs as far as the death of Queen Anne and the accession of the Hanoverian George I in 1714. The Commonwealth, which preceded the English Restoration, might have continued if Oliver Cromwell's son Richard, who was made Lord Protector on his father's death, had been capable of carrying on his father's policies. Richard Cromwell's main weakness was that he did not have the confidence of the new model army and the people. After only 7 months as Lord Protector, Richard Cromwell was forcibly removed from office and the Round Parliament was reinstalled. Parliament and the leaders of the army now began arguing amongst themselves about how England should be ruled. General George Monk, the officer in charge of the English army based in Scotland, was concerned that the nation would descend into anarchy. In England, a strong reaction had set in against Puritan supremacy and military control. When Monk marched in London with his army, opinion had already crystallized in favor of recalling the exiled king. The Restoration, however, did not settle the fundamental question of power between king and parliament. Indeed, exile had exposed Charles I's son to the strong monarchical methods of Louis XVI. Charles and James returned to Britain with expectations of an absolute monarchy justified by the divine right of kings, so tensions continued during the reigns of Charles II and his brother James II. From 1679 to 1681, Protestant nobles and Parliament passed acts excluding Catholic James from succession to the throne. The political turmoil of the exclusion crisis created the Whig faction favoring exclusion and the Tory counter-faction opposing exclusion. Unlike the pragmatic Charles, James II boldly pushed for all his goals. After the accession of James II in 1685, his overt Roman Catholicism alienated the majority of the population. He declared that his son and heir would be raised Catholic. On the military front, James expanded the standing army and promoted Catholic officers. On the financial front, he attempted to subvert Parliament by packing it with his loyalists. By 1688, Tories, worried about the Church of England, and Whigs, worried about the independence of Parliament, agreed that they needed to unite against James II. The solution became Mary Stuart and her husband, William of Orange, and what happens next is known as the Glorious Revolution. The Glorious Revolution. Glorious Revolution, also called Revolution of 1688 or Bloodless Revolution in English history, refers to the events of 1688 to 1689 that resulted in the deposition of James II and the accession of his daughter Mary II and her husband William III, Prince of Orange and Stadtholder of the Netherlands. The restoration of Charles II in 1660 was met with misgivings by many Englishmen. Charles II increased this distrust by not being responsive to Parliament, by his toleration of Catholic descent, and by favoring alliances with Catholic powers in Europe. After James' accession in 1685, his overt Catholicism and close ties with France troubled the political circle. The crisis came to a head in 1688 with the birth of a Catholic prince. The establishment of a Roman Catholic dynasty now seemed likely. 7 of the most influential leaders of the Tories and the Whigs finally united and set out to resolve the crisis by inviting William of Orange to come over with an army to redress the nation's grievances. William was both James' nephew and son-in-law, and until the birth of James' son, his wife, Mary, was heir apparent. In January 1689, The Parliament agreed to treat James' flight as an abdication, and in February it offered the crown jointly to William and Mary with an accompanying Bill of Rights, which greatly limited the royal power and broadened the constitutional law. This bill gave the succession to Mary's sister Anne, in default of issue to Mary, barred Roman Catholics from the throne, abolished the crown's power to suspend laws, condemned the power of dispensing with laws, and declared a standing army illegal in time of peace. In this way, the Bill of Rights prescribed the future line of royal succession and granted Parliament control of finances and army. The Glorious Revolution, the ascension of William and Mary, and acceptance of the Bill of Rights were decisive victories for Parliament in its long struggle against the Crown. These events were a milestone in the gradual process by which practical power shifted from the monarch to Parliament. The theoretical ascendancy of Parliament was never thereafter successfully challenged. Since 1689, government under a system of constitutional monarchy in England and later in the United Kingdom has been uninterrupted. Unlike the English Civil Wars, the Glorious Revolution did not involve the masses of ordinary people in England. This fact has led many historians to suggest that, in England at least, the events more closely resembled a coup d'etat than a social revolution. Here is the structure for today's review. The Restoration often refers to the both actual event of restoration and the period afterwards starting from 1660 to 1688. After Oliver Cromwell's death, his son Richard Cromwell failed to gain the confidence of the army and the people. After only 7 months, he was forcibly removed from office and the Rome Parliament was reinstalled. In the nationwide opposition to Puritan supremacy and military control, the monarchy was restored to Charles II. The Glorious Revolution, which is also called the Bloodless Revolution or Revolution of 1688, occurred in 1688 and ended in 1689. The causes of the revolution are Charles not being responsive to Parliament, his toleration of Catholic dissent, his favoring alliances with Catholic powers in Europe, and James' overt adherence to Roman Catholicism. The outcomes of the revolution are the deposition of James II, the ascension of William III and Mary II, the acceptance of the Bill of Rights. The revolution marks a decisive victory for the Parliament, a transition of practical power from the monarch to Parliament, and the formation of a government under a system of constitutional monarchy. That's all for today's lecture. Thanks for listening.